the constant determination and grind, but combined with suffering. When you read books on history on the Second World War, you hear about the Blitz spirit. Well, that spirit is here.
Every single interaction I've ever had in this country, people have been decent.
Which in turn will cause Ukrainians to lose their heritage and their culture. That's what the ambition is of the NWO. Being on the road and having a small bag means I often have to use laundromats. Well, no exception is this trip. I'm headed to a laundromat in Lviv. Not many laundromats in Ukraine. Most people traditionally have washing machines in their apartments or houses, but there's still a use for them here, and thankfully I get to use one here. Just means an hour of my time is spent in, to be honest, a very pleasant laundromat, very, very clean. And anyone that knows, having used laundromats around the world, that is not always the case. But this one, called the Speed Queen, very, very good. Well, clothes are now clean. I have a new set of black clothes to wear once more. Well, almost new. Clothes that have gone through more washes than the average set of clothes probably should. This, sort of the outskirts, the suburbs of Lviv. This is the bit that sort of tourists don't really get to see. This is how most Ukrainians tend to live day to day. They live in tower blocks like this. This is very common. The average Ukrainian doesn't live in plush mansions or grand houses. Most Ukrainians live in apartment blocks, and those apartment blocks generally have communal heating, communal water. A lot of them built during the Soviet days. Obviously you get newer apartments which are slightly more different, but there's still a huge supply of old apartments, and they're very well built. The sound insulation in these apartments are really good. The only flaw, sometimes the odd window should be triple glazed, but they're not, sometimes single glazed. These sort of places here, this is where people do their day-to-day shopping. If they're on a budget, they won't go to the big supermarkets. They will go to, well, you would have seen from my many other videos, and if you haven't seen those, do check them out. But these are sort of like little shops. You can buy your meat, you can buy your produce, buy your technology, bakery products. A little bit similar to recent videos in Turkey. Everyone's an entrepreneur here. You'll get people selling products on the streets. In these cold conditions, it's -6, and someone might be sat. And I'm just going to look around this corner to see if we can spot someone. Maybe we will, maybe we won't. Yeah. I don't know if you can see down there, there's a couple of people on the street. There's a lady selling some vegetables down there, and some fruits and veg. She's out in the street all day long. It's cold, it's really cold, and when the sun's not shining, it's super cold. So this is what they do. Selling coffees here, and maybe apple cider. Oh wow, smoked food. Look at this. You see that? That was a smoking machine, so a lot of smoked meats gets sold here in Ukraine. And you know how fresh it is when you can actually buy it from the guy smoking it right on the street, which is amazing. There isn't a Ukrainian city or town that doesn't have places like this. Now obviously pre-war these places would have been busier, but now you'll notice a lot of them are now boarded up simply because people have had to close down their businesses. Some of these businesses unfortunately would have been staffed by the men who have been sent to the front lines. Some men have made it back, many have not. But this is just the ongoing traumatic Ukrainian story. The constant determination and grind, but combined with suffering. Peace can't come soon enough because the population is being decimated. And it's being decimated, allowing the globalists, those who rule, control our leaders with strings to profit, and also those who have their strings pulled to profit. Got to be careful, the footpaths are very icy. See that? So I've come to suburbia in North Lviv to give this power bank to someone that's obviously requested it from the UK. I haven't met them yet, just waiting for them here. But the drive over from the Laundromat to here, complete opposite side of the city, which took about 30 minutes or so, kind of put things in perspective in terms of what's changed when I was driving in Ukraine prior to the war. Now I know I drove here during the war, but things were a little bit more panicky in certainly in the first year. But here we are 4 years in, and there's a real noticeable difference in the way people drive. And I say that in a really positive way. People are super polite, really polite. They give way, they give space, there's no aggressive driving, everyone's courteous. There's a real turn up for the books. I don't know, I think it's definitely improved. I mean, I'm not suggesting it was ever bad, but there's a real sort of like everyone's looking out for everyone sort of mentality. And that, I have to say, is remarkable. It's almost like that wartime spirit that you hear about when you read books on history on the Second World War. You hear about the Blitz spirit. Well, that spirit is here in Ukraine. They have to endure air raids, they have to endure drones, they have to endure ballistic missiles, they have to endure what could happen tomorrow, and knowing that someone, somewhere, one of their loved ones is probably on the front line and may or may not, that might be their last day here. So that's the things that these people have to go through. And I think looking out for one another, they all realize that each and every single one of them is a human being and they're all in it together, and that's remarkable. Remember guys, the reason I'm here is because I'm trying to raise money for the charity Car for Ukraine. I want to say a big thank you to everyone who has donated so far. Your support is greatly appreciated. But if you can donate, every penny, every pound, every euro helps. So click that donate button or scan this QR code. Now let's get back to the video.
That was really nice. I was expecting simply to drop off the box that had the power bank charger. That power bank charger is actually then going to go to a home further east. Volunteers taking in a battery charger that will then go further east. Lovely people. I got to meet the mother and the two daughters. The two daughters run a remarkable business. Obviously it's not that busy because there's not that as many events as there used to be. It's an events business where they dress up as characters, bears or dancers, and they put on these entertainment for people's birthdays and things. I came in because I needed to use the gents, and they offered me a coffee. And then typical Ukrainian hospitality, it seems to be a theme relentlessly, giving me more and more food, even though I was like, no, I'm full. But these sort of moments that Bald and Bankrupt would have been able to film, but for me, you lose the human moments when you've got a camera in someone's face. What I did do though was I got them to record what makes you smile despite all of the time that's passed. Basically, I'm releasing a video where I'm asking Ukrainians what still makes them smile after all this time. And strangely, before I asked that question to them, because I was asking people in the center of Lviv last night the same question, the mother came up to me and she told me her favorite thing is smile. You know, she was like showing me the happy, smiley, yellow face. She was showing me the cartoon characters smiling. She had all these fridge magnets that basically said smile. And it was almost like fate. It was fate that I was asking that question, what makes them smile? Her mother spoke in Ukrainian, so hopefully I'll get the translation on that, and understood. I thought it was beautiful what all of them said. So stay tuned for that video. That video will come out probably after this road series, and once I've got enough interviews, because I think it's important to not just show the negative, it's important to show what keeps these brave people going. And that's what's important. Anyway, I'm going to head back to the centre now. There's a place I've been meaning to visit, so come join me on that. I think it's going to be worthwhile. Just hope it's still daylight by the time I get there, because it's getting late.
Ukraine is not new to grief. For centuries, this land has been crossed, claimed, divided, and punished. The Cossacks rose and were crushed. The Polish-Lithuanian Commonwealth ruled. Then the Russian Empire swallowed the east and the south. The Austrian-Hungarians held Galicia. Lviv was theirs, not Kiev's, not Moscow's. Then the Bolsheviks came. Then the Germans. And then the Soviets. In the 1930s, the Holodomor, the Bolshevik-Stalin famine that took the lives of millions and millions of Ukrainians. Grain was seized, villages emptied. The Ukrainians were being punished for daring to want a nation. Their children starved while the world looked the other way. In the 1940s, the UPA fought both Hitler and Stalin. There was guerrilla war in the forests, reprisals in the villages, and massacres on all sides. Volhynia, still bleeds in Polish memory. The Banderites were heroes here, but monsters there. History is not black and white and never clean. However, after 1945, the Soviets deported, they Russified, and they suppressed the people of this land. The churches closed, the language of Ukrainians was restricted, dissidents were sent to the gulags, camps in the east. Then, in 1991, finally, independence came. It was a fragile beginning, a nation trying to remember who it was. But things don't last for long. In 2014, Maidan happened. Blood was on the streets of Kyiv. Crimea was quickly taken, and the Donbas was lit on fire and divided. Ukrainians plodded on. Children of the nation grew strong, but then in 2022, a full-scale Russian invasion, and every generation at that moment had to ask the same question: do we disappear or do we stand? The Ukrainians have always chosen to stand. Not because they love war, they hate war. They stand because the alternative is erasure.
So I just visited the Field of Mars, and I just want to show you what I witnessed, because I couldn't take my camera out to start vlogging and speaking on camera because I thought that would be inappropriate. I visited the original cemetery many years ago. I think it's even in one of my videos, and at the time, you know, I found it a very still, beautiful place. But I guess when you're witnessing graves of 50 to 80 years old to 50 years old plus, it has a less of an impact on you when you're just walking past. But this place, the individuals, most of which I walked past, were younger than myself, people born in the 1990s, 80s, 2000s, people born and now their lives taken in 2022, 2023, 2024, 2025. And I'm sure there's graves from this year as well. And this, you see the pictures of people that you almost vaguely recognize, people that have been decent to you every single time you've stepped onto a Ukrainian street, people that have been decent to you when you've walked into a restaurant, people that have been decent to you when you've walked into a bar, a pub, a shop. Every single interaction I've ever had in this country, people have been decent. And now, yeah, well, let me show you what I saw.
Now walk with me. This is the Field of Mars, found in the southeast of beautiful Lviv. These graves go on and on. Black stones, white stones, names, dates that ended way too soon. A boy who was only 18, a woman who was 28, a father whose child is still waiting for him to come home. They did not die because they wanted glory. They died because the other choice was to watch their house burn with everyone inside. When the shells started falling, when the tanks rolled in, when the sky turned red at night, these people did not run. They picked up a gun, the bandage, the wheel of the truck that might get one person out alive. They did it because the land under their feet was theirs. The people in their villages was theirs. The future, if there was ever going to be one, was theirs. That is the only reason these men and women chose to fight. There was no grand speeches, no promises of medals, just the oldest contract. If the wolf comes to the door, you stand and you fight. So they stood, and they stood together, and they keep standing, except this time they stand in the quiet way of the dead, under the snow, under this sky, under the names their mothers and fathers gave them. As I walk these rows, surrounded by futures that never happened, every stone is a sentence that ends the same way. Not while I breathe. But this war does not end because the brave are willing to die. It continues because someone else is still willing to kill. And while the graves multiply here, certain men in certain rooms far away count the profits. They sell shells, weapons, tanks, missiles, drones. They finance these tools of death and rub their grubby little hands together while these brave men and women die in the trenches and the fields and the houses and the apartments of the nation that we call Ukraine. Those grubby banksters write reports explaining why the ammunitions are necessary. They turn this grief into balance sheets. They turn this sorrow into dividends. The dead do not read quarterly earnings reports. The widows and the orphans do not care about earnings before interest and tax. The children left behind will never know the share price of BlackRock or JP Morgan or Morgan Stanley or the dozen other arms companies on that day their father stopped breathing. Yet the numbers keep going up while the black and white stones keep going into the ground, into the field of broken dreams. These people had no choice. Their border was crossed. The border was crossed by the invader. The bombs fell. The children screamed. What would you do then if it was your country? You take the rifle, you take the bandage, you take the wheel, and you stand, because the alternative is to watch everyone you love become ash and memory. This is not politics about left or right. This is the simplest truth left when everything else is stripped away. The cost of this war to the Ukrainian people is beyond reckoning. More than 100,000 soldiers have been killed in this pointless war. More than 100,000 soldiers have been killed because the grubby banksters have seen profit in this war. Some people estimate that twice that number have died. Tens of thousands of civilians are now dead. Men, women, children, all caught in the crossfire, or you could say deliberately targeted. The United Nations counts over 15,000 confirmed civilian deaths, but the true number is likely double that, lost in the rubble of cities like Mariupol and Bakhmut. 6 million displaced inside the nation, another 6 million refugees scattered across Europe, families torn apart, homes abandoned, lives paused in limbo. The economic toll? $500 billion in destruction, schools bombed, hospitals crumbled, farms salted with mines. A generation's wealth wiped out, a nation's infrastructure in absolute tatters. But numbers are meaningless. They do not capture the emptiness of a table with an empty chair, the silence where laughter used to be, the nights when a mother stares at the ceiling, wondering if her son felt pain in his last and final moment. Families destroyed, husbands gone, leaving wives to raise children alone in the shadow of uncertainty. Children orphaned, growing up with holes where parents should be, brothers and sisters separated by borders or graves, communities shattered, villages emptied, cities scarred or sometimes even destroyed, the fabric of everyday life ripped and left unrepaired. And yet men and women from elsewhere are profiting from organ harvesting, profiting from every single life lost in this war. These people have paid the price in blood and tears, not for abstract ideals, but for the concrete reality of home. for the right to wake up in a bed that is your own, in a land populated by the people of your nation. And still, this war grinds on. The brave keep falling, the graves keep filling, the profiteers keep counting. But this field is not a museum, it is a ledger. Every name is an entry, every date is a subtraction, and the sum is still rising. As I stood here, my stomach and my heart sank. The wind that whispered past my ears called the names of the people I walked past, perhaps an echo of their last breaths. These are the bravest. They gave everything, but they had no choice. The wolf was at the door. They stood, and in that standing, they remind us all, some things are worth the cost, even when the cost is everything. The end is not written yet, but the pages are stained with what has already been paid.
Well, once again, a really nice meal. Not that I'm taking any kind of advantage at all, but because of the currency depreciation, really cheap. All of that food came to a grand total of £10, which is about $13.50 at the current exchange rate. All of that food, that really nice beer, crackers, the bao, and the ramen. Yeah, the ramen, really nice. The only sad thing is restaurants are not that busy, but why would they be? You know, people aren't doing as well as they used to be doing. The amount of tourists here are obviously very almost little to none, if any, and it would be unwise to come here seeking tourism at this moment in time. I'm not encouraging it until the war ends, but I just know that as soon as the war does end, this town's going to boom. The whole world is going to want to come to Ukraine, want to witness what a great country it is, that in the way that I've been speaking about this country for years. And I think finally people have started to wake up. There'll be a positive and a negative to that. The positive is, you know, the Ukrainians, business people will do well out of it. The negative, rents will go up, property prices will go up. They will experience enrichment, which is not ideal, but that's what the NWO want. They want to replace the Ukrainian people with a global citizen, which in turn will cause the Ukrainians to lose their heritage and their culture. That's what the ambition is of the NWO. Morning. So I'm going to be quite sad giving up this car today. Today I'll be handing it over to the charity Cars for Ukraine, so I'm on my way to go meet them now. They will then take the car and then they will be adding all of the modifications to it. The body armor, painting it. You know, obviously it's not going to be bright white on the battlefield. Adding the drone jammer. They can then extract injured soldiers from the back of these, and they're really quite fast. I was very impressed with this car. Very impressed, and I love the fact that it was able to handle really well on the ice. Some really dodgy roads around here, but it had no issues. Let's go meet the Cars for Ukraine team.
In the next video, you will witness me giving this car to the amazing charity Car for Ukraine. I'm still collecting donations. I want to give a massive thank you to everyone who has donated. You guys are superstars. And remember, if you donate more than $100, 100 euros, 100 pounds, you will receive a patch dedicated to this campaign. I can't tell you how much the support that you give to this campaign really does go a long way to helping men on the front not die. Really, I can't thank you enough for that. Until next time, I will see you in the next video. Thanks for watching.